I think as you see it now, because he signs his name HH after every single, like the oldest man in the world, like just like the old guy on Facebook that just signs his name after
Kind of badass
after
to
his
be able to
tweet.
put two letters and everyone know what the fuck
I
it means,
I
though.
I, I gotta start. I gotta start doing that.
Here comes trouble!
It's me. It's me. It's the end to the TTG. Rolling once again with that BT double baby trouble bad bitch. I'm taking up the whole screen. Got myself Nick the Good, and we got the Meatpop Express. And it's been a bit. It's been a bit, fellas, folks, everyone out there, all those meat sticks waiting for us to make our grand return to the internet. And here we are right in front of you. But we've been busy. We've been making some noise. In fact, the big man, especially the man who sits aside from me each week, Big Ben Bishop, as everyone's been referring to you, but it's Big Trouble, Ben Bishop. Ben,
Thank you.
talk to me about the trouble that you've been
Oh
getting into.
man. Whew, we've sure been shaking the pillars of heaven, haven't we, Nick?
Shaking
Really
them.
quaking the earth the last few weeks after the big debut on AEW Rampage and
Huge.
all the aftermath, all the troublemakers coming out in droves, new and old, just supporting the big man, Meatpop Express, supporting us, all
Yes.
of us doing this together, creating a movement on social media. We're gonna keep going till the wheels fall off, Nick. But that's the thing is that we have been making moves on social media, and that's the theme of today's show. That's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the importance of social media and how it can really help so many people in, like obviously we talk about wrestling, so help people in wrestling get their name out there and make something when they're not particularly on TV and they don't have the opportunity to get those very much needed minutes. You
Yeah,
know,
I think what's important is that, you need a voice. You need a
Mhm.
voice. You need to be able to talk. You need to be able to get your personality out there, because what we've come to realize, and what I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to, is that, it's not necessarily what you are doing between those ropes all the time.
Mhm.
You don't need to do that on the indie circuit to get over. Back in the day, you had the Daniel Bryans of the world, the Brian Danielsons, the people going out there and just putting on incredible shows. Even CM Punk back in the day, just putting up incredible shows on the indie circuit. And that's how you got noticed. But now it's just different, man. It's just different. The world has completely changed. And if you want to get out there and you want to be seen on any level, you need to be able to master, or at least kind of get, social media. And that's kind of what we do. And that's what Big Trouble's been doing really well. He's got a lot of stuff coming up. I don't know if you want to promo it now or if you want
Yeah.
to wait to the end of the show, but I think you should get into it
Well,
right
we
now.
could
Just
talk.
tell
We
people
could
what
we
you've
could
been
talk right
doing.
about it. I mean, if you guys listen, if you're a fan of the ad-free show podcasts, and we'll get to what I'll be doing with ad-free shows in a bit. But to preface it, Jeff Jarrett mentioned on his podcast the other day on the My World podcast with Conrad Thompson, and he said Conrad asked him the question that came from one of the fans: "Who's next up?" Right, and so Jeff's like, "Well, if I knew who next up was, I would sign them up real quick and hitch my wagon to them." But he did say, basically, whoever masters social media or puts themselves out there on social media in this day and age will be next up. He said nothing about who the best luchador is or who the best strong style technical worker is. He did not say anything about that. Not even he didn't say anything about in ring, about who next up. He says who's going to master social media. And of course, he brought up the quintessential one of the quintessential kings of social media, Logan Paul, as someone who has done that and made himself a multi-millionaire business owner, everything. But then, talking on obviously a smaller scale, I mean, I'm much larger than Logan Paul, but
Much
on a
larger.
on a smaller side, social media, not so much. But he mentioned myself. So he talked about, Ben's going out there, putting himself out there, creating content, stepping up to the plate, taking the shot, and but because that's what you have to do. And here's the thing is that everybody, and I see a lot of guys, they get upset. The guys that might be signed, or hey, I don't get enough minutes, I don't get enough time on the mic. Like I can't show my character. Why they don't allow me to do it? They're holding me back, and that's all well and good. That could be a reason why you're not maybe getting over the way you think you can, but you can get over on your own. go on social media, show your character there. Like, I mean, we talk about this guy all the time, but look what Cardona did in 2011, 10, 11.
2011.
Yeah, in that time period when he created Z Long Island Story. And we talked to him over at War on the Shore, which was a great event. Everybody, I hope the videos come out soon. You saw the vlog. Go back, watch the vlog. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, sir.
But he said it himself is that like, he was upset. He wasn't getting time on TV. He was just kind of, floundering backstage and sitting in catering. And he just decided to start this podcast, not podcast, but this video series on YouTube, and it blew up.
And I'll speak a little bit to it
Yeah,
because
please.
so for a little guy, for a little just like backstory is that the reason I started in production and making videos is because of Z2 Long Island Story. I give Matt full credit for that. That is 100% the reason why I got into making videos and kind of led me to what I do today, where, in the shoot job, I do social media. I'm a producer. I can do pretty much everything, but you guys already know that. But the reality is that I look at social media right now and I look at the indie circuit for potential wrestlers as like, that's your resume. Like when you're selecting resumes, right? When you're looking at candidates, and this goes for any promoter out there, there's so many candidates, wrestlers. How do you choose who you go with? Well, what's their resume? How do they differentiate themselves from everybody else? What value are they going to bring that's different than what you already have on the card? Because there's tons of great wrestlers out there, but when you get to the ring, who the hell is going to make an impact? Who's going to get the people on their feet, and who's going to make a connection with the audience? And I'll use this as an example. Ben and I know we're putting ourselves over, but that's part of the show. That's literally why we got the show, because the gimmick is we want to be out there. That's why we have the damn show. We want to talk about what we want to talk about, and we want to show that we're really fucking entertaining. And here's a perfect example. The War on the Shore. This is an East Coast show. Ben lives in Atlanta, right? I'm Jersey, but I'm not a wrestler. So how the hell did two idiots sitting in their, me in my basement, Ben in a room in his house.
Yeah.
Right?
Corner upstairs room. Yeah.
How did we get booked on this show? Me specifically, how am I walking to ringside having a actual part in this show? It's because we started making noise on social. And yes, I'm trying to pat ourselves on the back, but the fact is that that's kind of the way it's done. Sure, it's on a smaller scale, but we had a merch table next to Matt Cardona, right? We're sitting right across from Mandy Rose. That is the reality that we got ourselves into. And that War on the Shore show was a hell of a damn show. So shout out to Dave Sturgio, Big Pain, and the Rev, the gas man, Tommy D, for putting on a hell of a show. Probably the best independent show that will be done all year, maybe with the exception of a few, GCW, like the Homecoming and the big deals, because they're obviously top of the heap. But I got to say, that was a hell of a show, and I was damn proud to be a part of it, Ben.
Yeah, and the next show, the announcement will be coming soon. We won't spoil anything, but they will be announcing the next show very, very soon. So stay tuned for that at Fight Factory Wrestling. But yeah, Nick, I mean, that's the name of the game. And there was a point where I can sit there and I can complain and I can say, why aren't I signed? Why like I think I should be signed. I'm tall, I'm aesthetically pleasing. I think I'm good enough in the ring, and I can do all the right things. Like why aren't I signed? I can sit there and feel sorry for myself, for the all day. But then I've finally realized, like, I need to do something different. Do something different. Show you have a personality. Show you're not just a big tall guy, right? Like, you just show you have a personality. If make them watch. It might not be the way they want you to do it, but I'm sure as hell they're going to eventually notice. And
unless the eyeballs are in your direction, they ain't seeing you.
Exactly.
So you gotta get and no one's like really like told a Jeff Jarrett or anyone to take notice of Ben. It's happened through word of mouth. If Ben doesn't make the videos, Ben's not going to be on ad-free shows. That's just a fact.
That's it.
That's just an absolute fact.
You can be the best. You can be the best in the world. You can be a great wrestler. You can be awesome technically. You can go out and have awesome matches. But and Jeff said it. He's like, and he'll say, he's like, Ben's good. He's not going to have the next banger. But what do we say all the time? Who cares about bangers? Like, no, like that. It's all about connecting. And he said this as well in the podcast. It's all about connecting with the audience, engaging with the audience. That's what the audience wants nowadays. That you can have a 30-minute classic, 5-star, whatever you want to call it, classic out there, and that's all well and good, and that's very impressive. But if the audience isn't engaged and they don't care about you as a character or a person. I mean, Nick, perfect example. Like, I bet you 99% of people who have heard Joe Hendry's theme song have never seen him wrestle, ever.
I
That's
have
probably
not watched a complete match.
I haven't either. And there's nothing wrong with that. But he's over. He's one of the most over guys, like probably top 5 most over guys right now in
He's
professional
going to have a
wrestling.
live show coming up. I think that's what his
On
next thing is.
NXT.
And guess
Yep.
what? I'm gonna fucking watch it.
I'm gonna watch it. It's
I'm
not
gonna
if
watch it.
I'd rather and honestly, there's nothing against his wrestling ability because I have not seen him wrestle a full match. I'd rather watch that than a
Uh-huh.
match.
Yeah. And I bet he'll have more fun doing that than wrestling in the ring. I mean, I don't know the guy, but I'm assuming that's the case. I mean, it seems like he's having a damn ball when he's out there being himself, and he's
Yeah.
been doing this for some time and he did it forever. And guess what? If he never did that and he never had that background and he wasn't continually doing it over and over again, he would never be where he is today. I listened to the Chris Van Vliet episode. I'm not talking out of my ass. This is kind of what the guy was saying. And
Yeah.
it's tried and true. So if you're listening out there, we're not exactly where we want to be, but if you don't keep doing the work, you ain't gonna
That's
get
it.
there.
I said,
And
you gotta keep doing it. It's consistency. And Nick, you know social media better than anybody. Right. It rewards consistency. It
yes,
rewards, yeah.
and consistency and being persistent. And
Yeah.
here's the last example I'll give you before we move on is that there's a little show called Wrestling on Barstool Sports, and I was laid off in September of 2023. I was laid off. I lost my job at Barstool, and guess what? I'm running that fucking show again, and we're going to be debuting it soon. And you know why? It's because I had persistence. And it's because I made sure that my name was out there, that people knew that I wanted to do this. And the people over there, they understand that when it comes to that damn show, when it comes to professional wrestling, that there's only one guy that can work with that big lug from Mississippi, the big customer. Brandon Walker,
Big customer.
the big customer. That was
then-
fucking great, by the
and
way. I don't know if
that's
you
so
caught wind
good.
of that,
I
but that
did
was
see it.
incredible.
But that's the thing. Like, you didn't sit there and you didn't feel sorry for yourself. You didn't say like, oh, woe is me. You started like, hey, you know what? Gotta just keep moving now. And
Does it
things
help that I'm
happened, it
does it
happened.
help that I'm rich and that I can afford to do all these things? Absolutely.
Does
It
help. Does help a little
absolutely
bit.
helps that I'm rich, have a wildly attractive wife and 2 children, and I'm very stable in life. But guess what? I earn that shit too. So anyway, we're gonna move on because we actually do have a little bit of a show here. We're gonna talk about social media. That's why we started talking about this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look back at the Attitude Era or even before it. And we're
Mhm.
going to say if social media existed back then, who would have benefited and crushed it, and who would have been an absolute train wreck disaster and got themselves canceled. So, big man, as per usual, you're the star. Let's tag you on
All
in.
right.
Who's the first person you
So-
think would actually be good?
I'm gonna give you 2 who I think would be horrible and
Yes,
who would be
let's-
really good. So
Screw it. Let's start with the
I'm gonna
horrible
go
people.
behind. I'm gonna go behind, like, before the Attitude Era. So I would probably say who would be the best at utilizing social media is Roddy Piper. So I think Roddy Piper, just by his promos, he was the first person to have like that like the talk show segments that now we see all the time, and to the point where I felt like in the 2000s everybody had one. But Roddy Piper was the first. Roddy Piper was the first one to have one, and just his natural ability to connect with the audience, his sharp tongue, how witty he was. I believe it could be like what we see with, and no pun intended with the Scottish gimmicks, but I think we could like a Drew McIntyre nowadays. I think like how Drew's utilizing it, I think Roddy Piper would have figured it out and done the same thing. Now, I think who would be absolutely so insufferable, and obviously I loved him as a character, and it'd be one of the most iconic, not just characters, but people of all time. I think Hogan would have been the most insufferable on social media. And I think as you see it now, because he signs his name HH after every single, like the oldest man in the world, like just like the old guy on Facebook that just signs his name after.
Kind of badass
after
to
his-
be able to put two letters and everyone know what the fuck it means.
I gotta start doing that. But it's just, I think that it would have been just so like marketed and corny, and his social media presence would have just been like, dude, that's so fun.
It would have been corporate. It'd been like
That's just
it'd be like following
would
a
have
corporate
been
brand.
Oh, dude, it almost like, how like you see like people that follow Cena, and it's just like motivational quotes, and it's like you can't talk like this all the time, really. Like, I feel like Hogan would have been so incredibly corny on social media, and I think I would have been sick of it. And I wouldn't be able to follow it anymore. But those are my first two, Nick. I want to hear what you got to say.
So for a person that I thought would have done really, really well given his character. Also, I want to say about Roddy Piper, he would have been an excellent troll on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
An
Like
excellent
Drew,
troll, like
like
Drew.
Drew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say that. So for me, when it comes to social media back in the day, that I think Owen Hart would have been very good at social media because I'm kind of thinking about Owen in terms of like what the Young Bucks did with BTE. I
Mhm.
could see Owen making like a YouTube vlog show where you see his character on TV, disgruntled little brother, right?
Mhm.
But what we've come to realize is that the true Owen was one of the greatest, if not the greatest ribber of all
Yeah.
time. Everyone loved him. Quintessential family man. No scandals, no bad news. Everyone loved him. I could see him having just a monster YouTube channel of him just going behind the scenes and just riffing with the boys and making great content. That's where I think that Owen Hart would have, like, I don't know what his technical prowess was, but I'm just saying, like, if I needed a vlogger, I would think that Owen Hart could make great, great content because of who he was, what he was great at, and his ability to get
Mhm.
the boys to pop. And if the boys pop, what do? You put that some bitch on TV, you put it on the internet. That's what I'm
Mhm.
thinking in terms of who I would like. And then as far as who I think would get his ass canceled immediately is Ken Shamrock. I
Oh,
think
really?
I
Interesting.
think
Okay.
I went back in the day. So I'm not talking about like current age Ken Shamrock. I'm thinking that dude was a straight up lunatic back in the day. And I just think there would have been something he would have said. I think there would have been some moment, some lapse in 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 judgment that Ken Shamrock would have just went off the hinges and you would have learned a lot about him that you didn't know, right? Because Ultimate
Well,
Fighter, like all those things. I just think that Ken Shamrock would have been the guy who said a bunch of stuff on social media before like you realize like it could get you canceled, and then he would just be canceled like 2 years later.
speaking of that, Nick, I mean, well, think about if I don't think we would ever have one of the if it was for social media. If it was back then, we wouldn't have had one of the greatest gimmicks of all time. I don't think we would have had Val Venus if
I
social
so
media.
Val's on my list.
That was on your list.
So Val Venus is on. So Val is on my list because obviously he's gone off the deep end in real life. But I also think that, yeah, I mean, like I
It's
there's God is
it's a wild ride, folks. If you follow what Sean what's his name?
Sean Morris,
Sean Moreland, yeah.
Moreland,
Val
yeah.
Venus. If you follow Val Venus on social media, it is a absolute wild ride.
It's a world
So
when he's gone
he's
completely.
he's something.
He is whoa, holy shit, crazy, and like it's not about just being crazy. It's just about being so extreme. I'll say it.
Yeah.
Extreme in that sense, where it's just like it doesn't even matter what side you're on. You could look that way and be like, "Yep, that's a problem."
Yeah.
Um, but his character back in the day, I still just don't think like it's dicey because if he had to bring that on to the web right now, it would just be like I
I
mean,
don't know. I think it would. I think you could have had a whole gimmick with it where he has like a gimmicked up OnlyFans, and you really. I mean, there's something there, right? That you could actually
but
take
do
to
you
this
trust the
day.
man? Do you trust the man to be able to do that? Is the thing, right? Like
I think
I
you can gimmick it up in a way where it's like
okay.
it's like WWE's kind of like giving him the ideas of like what to do on
If
it.
someone
Like,
ran his account for him, if he had a social media manager,
yeah, and but that was part of the gimmick is that he had an
yes.
OnlyFans. That's like
Oh, that would be great.
that's his thing, and I think you could do that now. I think that'd be a pretty smart thing to do now, like a Val Venus type character, but it's in 2024, not in 1999.
I mean, if someone's listening now, that could be done.
There you go. That's free. That's free advice. That's what you get
Like,
here.
and I'm talking male or female. Like, you both could
Yeah,
do it. Like, it'd be
yeah,
funny if it was a dude, but if you're a girl, like, you could literally be like, my OnlyFans makes more money than
yeah. But
you do
I think that's
wrestling
the
in a
rib
bingo
though,
hall.
Nick. Is that if a male does it, right? Or it's like
I would
funny if
love it.
yeah, and I think you could. That's a great source of income for the WWE and that person. So that's an idea.
100%. And
Someone should
then
do that.
like you go to the OnlyFans and it's just him like giving headlocks. Like or like
Yeah, yeah.
or
Or it's
like
like
Or like
If
practicing.
anybody's ever seen Customs wrestling, by the way, have you guys ever heard of Customs wrestling? Don't
No.
look it up. It's very weird, but it's just basically people being like, "Hey, can you have a match and can you do this?" And like they have guys and girls do it, and it's a weird subset of the internet. So I'm not, we don't have to get onto that, but it is a thing and it's a very weird thing in wrestling. But I think that if you took that and you made it something on like mainstream, I think it could be a pretty funny gimmick there. Like the new aged Val Venus gimmick, not the person. We don't need the person, the real person, just the gimmick.
Who else do you think would be good?
I can give you another one who I think would be 100% canceled immediately.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
If there was camera phones and Instagram and Reels, I don't think Ric Flair would have been around.
Woo! No, he'd be done.
I think well, I can also say that for probably the majority of 80s and 90s wrestlers
Yeah,
because
but
camera phones around.
but Rick, especially based on like
Yeah.
the stories that he has out there, like there's a reason he starts with, like he always says like I don't know if I could tell this story. Like every single
Yeah.
thing, like even like BSK, like I listen to the Undertaker's podcast all the time. He's like every single story is like I don't know if I could tell this story, and I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. But yeah, Ric Flair, I mean I mean yeah. That
Yeah. I don't
just
know.
I mean, look, the guy is 73, 70, however old, and people will get him
Close, yeah.
people are getting him on the phone now, drunk in like airports and shit.
And yelling at people
And
and
yelling
fight.
at
Yeah.
people, man.
Yeah.
I think on a good end, I mean, I obviously think Paul Heyman would be fantastic. I mean, he does a great job now.
Mhm.
Paul Heyman to me is the quintessential guy that would understand social media because he was always ahead of everyone, and he continues to this day.
Yeah.
He might be like I'm Mount Rushmore for me at this point. Like I
Like on
think
like of wrestling
I think
personalities
he's
or what?
that important to professional wrestling. Like I think he's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
undervalued at this point because who else has been attached to this many big acts and leveled up people that needed so desperately that could be stars that couldn't like can Roman Reigns truly become the tribal chief without the wise man? I don't think he can. I
No.
don't think he can.
No. I think he put CM Punk on another level. I think CM
Like
Punk was great before him, but I think he was even better with Paul Heyman.
I also think
Obviously
Paul
Brock
Heyman might
Lesnar.
I also think Paul Heyman might be the best on the mic of all time. Of all time.
I honestly, I can't deny that. I mean, just the amount of, and he doesn't do like the wrestling promo, right? He like talks realistic. Like there's some great guys who've been super creative, like The Rock and Stone Cold and guys like that. But Paul Heyman doesn't do like the prototypical wrestling promo, and that's why it's so incredible of what he's been able to do throughout the years and just
And
make
he
you everybody believe in him.
and like his ability to adapt. I think social media is important to adapt. Like I always like, like and it's a small example, but like for the people that follow me and have followed me since I was doing like the my wife leaves the house for 2 minute like bits and stuff like that. Like, why don't you do that anymore? I'm like, because if I do them constantly, then that's all I'm known for, and then I'm not adapting. Like, you
Hmm.
need to. People are more impressed, I think, when you create new content in new formats in new ways. Like over time, you
Hmm.
can't just continually just beat down like unless you have such equity and you have like an established YouTube channel or something like that. I don't think you can continue to just do the same thing over and over again. I mean, Paul Heyman was Dangerous Alliance, owner of ECW. Like he was with CM Punk, right?
Commentator.
He was a commentator. He was for the advocate. Now he's the wise man. I mean, guys, like just look at the people that have gone. I mean, granted, he has the gift of gab like no one else. I mean, he is
Mhm.
like just an unbelievable talker. I mean, when I cut promos, I specifically try and like I watch Paul Heyman cut promos, his cadence, like and how he talk, because I think I'm a good talker. But like, if you had to aspire to be someone, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, he's the best.
Paul's
He's
the
the best.
guy. He's the best of all time, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So I think he would do a great job just because he'd be ahead of the curve. Like he'd be the first person, like a Cardona. But like back when he had ECW, like what do you think ECW would be if he had the internet? Like this
Oh
powerful.
yeah.
It
I
would be
mean,
over.
yeah, you can look at like a GCW and how good they are at marketing and on social media, how they built such a strong following because of social media and not from needing TV.
It's the
I think
third
that
biggest promotion. I think
under
like that maybe TNA's gained steam. You got to say they are,
oh
but
yeah, they're doing a lot better, absolutely. But I think who has the bigger name brand, like TNA, I should say TNA has a bigger name brand because of their history. But I think the strength of the name right now, I think GCW is if not third, a very, very close fourth to TNA.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me right now, would I go to a GCW show or a TNA? I gotta
Think
make it.
about it.
I gotta make it. I gotta think about it. I gotta think about it because TNA's got some stars, they got some studs, but GCW just it seems like a party.
It's
Like it
exactly.
seems
Yeah.
like a party, man. They go to that ballroom, they go to Hammerstein. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna tell
Yeah.
you right now. Give me someone who would be bad. Give me another person who would be bad.
Oh man, bad at it. Oh,
Yeah, I got somebody.
yeah. You go ahead, Nick. You give me yours.
I think that if and this is remember the context here. The context is if social media was at their disposal back in the day, not that they don't know anything, right? Like you're just starting to tweet. I think that Hardcore Holly might run into some issues with it, trying to get it. Like he's so dry, like he's a very dry guy, you know what I mean? And I just think that like I don't know. I think that he would be bad at it. I think just someone who'd be bad at it. I think he would be bad at it. Like I think he would get left behind in the age of social media. Like his character, like how he eventually got over time was through hard work, was through consistency, was through like starting to talk a little bit on the mic and changing his character up. But I think he might have been eaten alive if he was in the social media age and he had to compete with people that were like overly creative. I think that would have been
Hmm.
the case. Yeah. And
Hmm.
I was a big Hardcore Holly fan. I loved that fucking theme song. And I loved Crash too, coming out with the scale short guy, obviously, came
If
out with the scale.
that actually gives me a good idea. If they had the whole hardcore gimmick online of
It'd
the
be great.
24/7,
Right. It'd be awesome.
and you put that on Twitter, and you didn't have to worry about like I got to wait till Raw to watch it. Think about
Instead of what they do on
instead of speed,
speed,
you
you
have the
just make it
hardcore
your hardcore championship.
hardcore title, and it's just happening all the time. Now I think that would have been like they kind of did it with the 24/7 title, but everyone thought that was kind of like dorky. I think it kind of was a little bit. But if you had that hardcore title with the duct tape on it, and that's how you saw hardcore matches was on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think that would have gotten over really big.
Yeah, man. I mean, I just love social. What about give me one female that you think would be good before we
Oh,
move
and
on.
there's a few I think like, and I think she was coming up like right when social media was getting big, but AJ Lee.
Yeah,
I would have
definitely.
said would have definitely been really good. Probably in that like what we are saying, like that troll type of gimmick, or could really get over on social media. I mean, she again, it was kind of like the cusp of it. It wasn't super popular yet, in the early 2010s
Mhm.
when she was popular. So I wouldn't say that would she was kind of really utilized it too much. I mean, man, people were still using what- like tout. Remember tout? They
Oh,
really tried.
they
They
tried to
really
get that
tried to
shit
get
over so bad.
Tout and Vine and all that type of stuff. Vine was over, but
Vine was at least kind of cool. Tout was
Tout
never cool.
Tout was never cool. The WWE tried so hard to get Tout. They really believed in Tout. I think Cardona believed in Tout. He tried to get it over a bit, but it's all right, man. You've gotten other things over. Tout just wasn't it.
Um,
Um, no, I'd
I
say AJ Lee. What about you?
I think Ivory would be good. I think that she was someone that would make the best out of everything she was given. And that's kind of why, because like when she was in Right to Censor, I think she was the best part of the act. Like,
Hmm.
like as the female, like that was the shit. Like if you were in Right to Censor, you probably like fuck. Other than Stevie Richards, obviously. But like if you were a not Stevie Richards in Right to Censor, that was like, shit, this kind of sucks. And
I just watched the Right to. I was actually there at the debut of Right to Censor in Worcester, Massachusetts in 2000 and 2000. Yeah, after the King of the Ring, the day after the King of the Ring. I just watched the match last night at SummerSlam 2000 when they wrestled Too Cool and Rikishi. It was like
dude,
Bill Buchanan and Stevie
don't
Richards and Goodfather.
don't you just love, and this is kind of how we'll close out the show after this. I love just having nothing to do at night. And like you got a
Yeah.
pay-per-view, you got a PLE on the horizon, and you just scroll down Peacock, and you find a year, and you just
Hmm.
like, what's the opening match for this? What's the opening?
Yeah, that was the
And
opening match. Somebody was saying 2000.
I remember doing that. It was about a year ago. I did it, and I put on a St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and it was
Hmm.
Gold Dust versus Blue Dust, and I was like, this is a
You
great
forget.
fucking match, man. It's like the opening vignette is like the Blue Mini covered in like just like rubbing like blue goo all over himself. It's like this is
Oh, yeah,
great.
that's wrestling, baby. There was one more I had to bring up because I now work for the guy. but I watched it was SummerSlam. I think it was 98 or 97 or 98. The main event was Stone Cold and The Undertaker, but the first match, it might have been the first or second match, but I think it was the second match. First match was Val Venus and D'Lo Brown, but the second match was the Kai and Tai versus what were not the Goonies, what were their names?
The oddities?
The oddities. Yeah, it was Kurgan and what's his name? He used to be Earthquake.
Well, Golga.
Golga,
John
and then the other
Tenta.
Giant Gonzalez or Giant or
No, it was
no, was it?
it was what's his
It
name?
was
It was this
Giant Morale. What was
No,
his
I
name?
got it. I got it 1 second. I got it 1 second.
But the reason I bring it up is because on the outside was ICP, was Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope, and I worked for Juggalo Championship Wrestling, and so that was so funny. I forgot that they did have a little bit of a stint in WWE. I remember them in WCW more, but I remember I forgot that they were in WWE for a few months.
When I got the roster up here, I have to know what the name of that.
It was Giant something.
Giant. It was Giant
Silva.
Giant Silva. Yep, that was
Giant Silva. Giant Silva. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a large man.
The match probably was like 11 minutes. It felt like it was 30. It's like, when is this match gonna end?
Yo, I tell you what. Well, I tell you what,
but,
man.
Oof.
Oddities, man. That theme song hit. That crowd, brother. No,
They loved it. Yeah, see?
No,
And there we go.
no,
This is how we can end it. Perfect example. They engaged with the crowd. They were the absolute shits.
Drizzling shits.
The drizzling shits. But you know what? We remember them. And just because, look, they had a gimmick. They were fun. They were engaged with the audience. And that's it. That's all you need.
Sometimes you got to deal with the cards you're dealt, and you got to make the best out of them. Ben, I feel like this was a good episode. We touched about social media. We love social media. You could find us everywhere. You can find Ben at Big Trouble BB everywhere right now. Make sure you hit up his Instagram. It's over 10,000 followers.
Almost 11 now.
Almost at 11, brother. He's going to be at 20 soon. I can feel it. He's going to be on ad-free shows next week at this time, or this day, I should say. And for
August 1st, 8 p.m., folks, I will be on ad-free shows. Sign up for their Patreon. Hosted by Jeff Jarrett, a live event there. Can't wait to chop it up with Double J.
I will be tuning in 100%. And then as for me, you can follow me at Nikki the Good on Twitter, on TikTok. Follow us at the Meatpop Express everywhere. Follow our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow Wrestling with Barstool Sports because I'm bringing it back. I appreciate everyone who's been patient. The people in my DMs, there's three things I got to answer your questions real quick. Number one, no, you cannot work for us for free. I'm not giving any of you jobs. Okay. I'm just like, stop asking me if you could help out the pod. I don't need your help. Okay. I just don't need your help. If I do need your help, I'll let you know, but chances are I don't. So please stop asking me for a job. Can we at least launch the fucking show? Number two, I will look into if I could unblock you from Brandon Walker. I will look into it. I'm not saying I will, but I will ask him. And depending on what your crime was, that will determine whether or not you get unblocked. And the last thing is please follow, please subscribe, please get on the train because my goal for that channel, and it's weird because I'm on a channel right now. That's not that. But my goal for that channel, we're at 47,000 subscribers right now. I want to get it to 100,000. I'm not going with small goals. I'm going with big goals. And I think we can get there as long as that big lug, that big Mississippi, the big customer, Brendan Walker just listens to whatever I tell him to do. Anyway, Ben, sign us off with some good vibes, episode. Brother.
Absolutely. Folks, keep it positive, keep it trucking, and keep the shades on because the sun never sets on a cool guy.
Later, Marks.